Right, good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Paul. I write Knickknacks Old Peculiar, the world's most boring blog. I do the Daily Teaser, which is a set of quizzes. I talk about movies when I actually can sit down for long enough to watch one. And I also talk about TV shows I'm watching. Just recently, I've been watching Star Trek Discovery, and I will try and put a link to my video reviews up there if you're watching on YouTube. If you're coming across me for the first time, please feel free to hit subscribe, hit notification, and feel free to go exploring my channel to see what you can see. At any rate, I was saying I watch TV shows. Just recently I've watched Star Trek Discovery, and additionally, over the past few weeks, I've been watching Doctor Who's newest season. Tonight is Saturday the 22nd, and I saw Empire of Death, the last episode of this season. I thought you might want to know what I thought. Episode 8, Empire of Deaths, opens with a summary of the legend of Ruby Sunday and then shifts to show us Sutekh, Gabriel Wolf, materialising around the TARDIS as Susan Triad, Susan Twist, starts to destroy all those around her. Post-titles, we see Triad killing the unit team led by Kate Stewart, Gemma Redgrave, as the Doctor and Mel Bush, Ncuti Gatwa and Bonnie Langford flee Unit HQ to arrive at the time window in a separate part of London, where Ruby, Millie Gibson, is still trying to see the ghostly image of her mother, and a replica of the TARDIS, one uninfected by Sutekh, still stands. It's a replica that allows the three to jump ahead to a dead 2046 and check databases compiled by a villainous Prime Minister, and to find the one thing they realise can distract Sutekh for long enough to once again trap him in the time vortex. That one thing is the name of Ruby's mother. Now, what did I make of the 54 minutes worth of the Empire of Death? What did I make of it and the series it's a climax of, and associated other things as well? Empire of Death is a very good episode indeed, I think. Granted, it resolves the Sutekh story around the 35-minute mark. That may also be a little bit too quick a resolution for some, but it's nicely done. This part of the episode is something that's well done, it's nicely paced, it's well written, and it's beautifully performed. More on that later. I can also say the same of the latter 20 minutes or so of the episode. It tells us, or at least it reveals, Ruby's much hidden birth mother and introduces Ruby to, or her mother, to us, to Ruby, and to Ruby's adopted family. Again, that's some very good, very strong performances there. This is an episode that sees some seriously strong performances. Millie Gibson as Ruby is fantastic. Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor does as great a job as I've come to expect from him throughout this series. His "you bring lifeline" towards the end of the episode is simply joyous. His speech is incredibly tear-jerkingly emotional. The real star of the episode, though, as far as I'm concerned, is Bonnie Langford as Mel. Her performance was as restrained as Ncuti's was exuberant, and it was equally and utterly bewitching to watch. As I can remember from the 80s, I think I, and certainly a few other fans I knew at the time, gave Bonnie a bit of a hard time. She was best remembered from Just William at the time, but she is an incredibly competent, incredibly experienced actress. She's one that's benefited from good writing in this episode, benefited from good directing as well, but she is a competent, experienced actress who knows her stuff and put every last drop of it on screen in this episode. It was beautiful to watch. There's possibly other things to mention here, I think. I mentioned in last week's review of The Legend of Ruby Sunday that I'd been watching the series through the BBC's iPlayer app, the BBC Catch-Up Service app, and I'd been watching it on my Apple TV 4K. It's a great little device, it really is. I'm a bit of an Apple fan, as friends will probably tell you. So for me, it made sense to get it. And generally, most of the time, it and the stuff I watch on it are superb. Except that specifically on the iPlayer, the Apple TV version of the iPlayer, the subtitles are non-existent. I occasionally like to have them switched on. I'm not getting as young as I was, so the occasional muffled line, it's easier for me to have subtitles on. Except, of course, the BBC iPlayer app, specifically on this device, the subtitles don't work. As you'll probably be aware of if you've watched my last set of reviews. Now, in the days since that review, last week, I managed to check with owners of other Apple devices. People who tried accessing subtitles on their Apple TV, not a thing. But anyone who accessed the iPlayer on a Mac in various different web browsers, or with the various Apple mobile devices, the iPhone, the iPad, can access the iPlayer subtitles without a problem. Anyone using the Apple TV can't. Now, I don't think it's a problem at Apple's end, although it might be, but I don't think it is, given every other one of their platforms. It's not a problem. The problem, I suspect, is at the BBC's end, and I think it needs solving as soon as possible. Apple, the BBC, and Modern Doctor Who, most notably the BBC and Modern Doctor Who, pride themselves on accessibility. I'm just one old git who likes watching Doctor Who. I am not necessarily hard of hearing, so I know the deaf community would appreciate subtitles. I don't know if Russell T Davies can put in a word at the relevant ears, but I suspect him, of all people, would be able to swing something. On other fronts, at one point in the story, when the three are in the memory TARDIS, and after being told of the Doctor's first meeting with Sutekh, Ruby asked the 15th Doctor, what was all that Egyptian stuff about? And the Doctor tells her it's cultural appropriation. I'm not sure that he's right. I understand it, I really do. Cultural appropriation, nicking other people's cultural practices. It's a bad thing, and we need reminding of it, and we need it to stop. I get it, I really do. But I don't know if A, I need Doctor Who or Russell T Davies to tell me that. And I'm also very aware that Tom Baker's era of the show lifted inspiration from everywhere. Egyptian myth in Pyramids of Mars. The character of Sutekh is modelled on Set, the god of death. Homer's Odyssey influenced Underworld. Fu Manchu, Jack the Ripper, The Phantom of the Opera have elements in the famously contentious The Talons of Weng-Chiang, which is a fantastic story. Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, was an influence on the brain of Mobius, and there's probably more if you want to go digging for them. Pyramids of Mars, I believe, did not do cultural appropriation. It lifted inspiration. And I believe that Empire of Death is seeing appropriation where I think there isn't any. Just as an extra thought here, a kind of diversion, a sidestep here, whilst we're talking about Pyramids of Mars. You might not know it, especially if you're outside the UK, but the BBC iPlayer had half a dozen classic Doctor Who adventures under the Tales of the TARDIS banner for the 60th anniversary last year. Thursday just gone, Thursday the 20th of June, saw the BBC release a version of Pyramids of Mars, again under that same Tales of the TARDIS banner. I saw it myself on Thursday, and it's, I think, quite well done. I grant you it's an edited version with a runtime of 75 minutes compared to the original's 100 minutes. But the story still hangs together well enough, I think. The updated effects look good, especially of Sutekh travelling through the time tunnel. And the story, or at least the frame story, is well done. It sort of fits into this episode quite well. Personally, I don't know if you'd want to go and see it, but personally, I think it's worth watching. And I hope that for international viewers it's made available on DVD or Blu-ray. Finally, what did I make of Empire of Death? What did I make of this episode and the series it's the finale of? Yes, I think we can safely say Empire of Death makes for a suitable grand finale, even given some of its flaws and some other things I personally found not necessarily good. It's a good little finale to a good little series. One overall, I found, yes, it's got its flawed episodes, the first two, Space Babies and whatever the second one was called. But it's one I found very enjoyable and one I found watching on iPlayer ahead of the actual broadcast time to be very, very easy to do, despite the issue with the subtitles. It's been very convenient, especially for a hobbyist reviewer like me. It's one that means I've enjoyed things, I've enjoyed making these videos for you, and it's one that leaves me looking forward to Joy to the World, the Stephen Moffat penned 2024 Christmas special. Between now and that special, I'm going to be doing all sorts of things. I'm going to be watching all sorts of stuff. I'm probably going to be watching more Doctor Who. I know I've got a copy of The Celestial Toymaker sitting around that got to me this afternoon, so I'm going to be watching and reviewing that at some point, and hopefully, keep saying this, I am hopefully going to be watching the 2-hour 45-minute monster that is Dune Part 2, and I will be telling you about that as and when I do. Either way, if you're reading this on my blog, on Knickknacks Old Peculiar, feel free to bookmark it in your web browser. That way, you'll probably see more stuff go past as and when. Please feel free to favourite and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mr. Cuddy2977, and hit the notification bell. When I do quizzes or more TV and movie reviews, you'll get to hear them first. Either way, I'll see you next time I see you, and until then, in the words of the immortal Patrick McGowan, be seeing you.